the stars in heaven? Were we the salt in the sea? Dragging in the new warm mountain. Didn't you believe in me? You held me the whole way through, but I couldn't say the words like you. I was scared and to go, but I wanted to. I was scared and to go, but I wanted to.
Hey man, it's your boy Dez. We're reacting to how good was Derrick Rose. Actually, prime Derrick Rose might have been the best point guard we ever seen. He was explosive. He could do it all until the Achilles injuries hurt him, and it hurt a lot of players. He's one of the biggest what ifs. But what if you subscribe, like, share, comment down below more video suggestions.
Prime Derrick Rose was the most athletic point guard we've ever seen.
What?
Too strong for
Rookie
most
of the
point
year?
guards with a
He got a lot of
mind-blowing
achievements in
first
a little
step.
career,
D-Rose
yeah.
was able to explode and fly in the air like he had springs in his legs,
He was
bending
like
the laws
LeBron
of
James with the
physics night
athleticism
after
and
night.
Stephen Curry
For
with
3.5
the
years,
shooting
he was the most electrifying player in the
Ooh, and the
NBA,
most fun to
serving
watch.
some of
I
the
wish I
most
would've got tickets to
disrespectful
see him.
dunks we've ever seen. And then, in the first game of the 2012 playoffs, Rose fell to the floor of the United Center, holding
I'm
onto
only
his knee,
thinking it happens
his
to
face
point guards,
twisted
'cause
in
Kevin
agony.
Durant got an Achilles
Derrick
injury
Rose,
and he came
as
back
we knew
even
him,
better.
was over. Not officially over,
His career
as Derrick Rose
ended.
played for 12
Not
more
ended 'cause
years,
he was still in
with
the
some
NBA.
legendary moments, like the playoff game winner against Cleveland, or the 50 points he scored for the Timberwolves. But Derrick Rose, as we originally knew him, ceased to exist that fateful night in 2012. And his story remains one of the biggest what-ifs in NBA history. Because if Derrick Rose had remained healthy, he probably would have been one of the top 5 point guards of all time. In 2008, the Chicago Bulls had only a 1.7% chance of getting the number 1 pick.
The number 1 pick in the 2008 NBA draft will be made by the Chicago
And he had the
Bulls.
number 1 pick.
But the luck of the
That's
lottery
another
smiled
achievement he
upon
added
them,
on.
and they got the chance to draft their hometown hero. Born in the south side of
He
Chicago,
could have a better story. He's from Chicago. He got drafted to the Chicago Bulls, and his favorite team was the Chicago Bulls.
one of the most
They say he's
dangerous
the
and
most safest in
crime-infested
Chicago,
places on the
compared to Michael
planet,
Jordan, and
Derrick
that's
Rose
surprising.
had a tough childhood. Rose grew up
He's
in
the
a
reason
5-bedroom
they're a
house with a
legacy
single mom and
team.
3 brothers, but up to 13 people would live in the house at one time. His 2 older brothers were drug dealers, like a lot of other young kids in his neighborhood. But Derrick didn't want that life.
NBA
His drug of
stories
choice
be surprising
was
to me
basketball,
sometimes.
and he spent most of his time playing ball at Murray
'Cause you
Park,
would've never
also
noticed.
known as Murder Park, due to the number of killings that had happened there. And even though he was
So
surrounded
basketball was his outlet because Chicago was very dangerous.
by guns and narcotics, Derrick was protected, and the neighborhood gangs
Smartest
never
route.
gave him trouble. Partly because they were scared
But
of
the
his
other
mother,
routes maybe
Brenda,
not have been
who
not so
protected
smart 'cause they
Derrick
may have
like
not
an
been
angry
good at
wolf
basketball.
would protect her cub. And partly because he was a local celebrity. From an early age, everybody knew Rose was special and had a chance to make it out of the hood. I was the best kid in my neighborhood at a young age.
He
My
was
whole
the
life,
best kid
I
in the
was
neighborhood at
always
a
the
young
one
age, and he was
everyone was
probably the
talking about.
smallest.
I've never
He was
really
like
wanted the attention,
6'4",
but it has
and he
always
was
been
one of the
there.
explosive
As a high school
point guards we ever
junior,
seen.
Rose led his high school, Simeon Career Academy, to a state
See, I know a little bit about Derrick Rose. He wore 25 because of Benji Wilson. A lot of people might know him. A lot of people might not.
title with a buzzer-beating jumper in the finals.
He's going one-on-one.
You know.
The loft, the score! Derrick Rose with the bucket.
In his senior season, Simeon won the title again, with Rose averaging 25 points, 9 assists,
It's
9
crazy to me how he
rebounds,
was
and
getting
3.5
high school,
steals.
college,
And
and
Derrick
NBA.
finished his high school career with a record of 120-12. He was wanted by several major programs, but he chose the University of
A lot of
Memphis
people careers
because
can
of
go
Coach
downhill depending on what
Calipari,
college you
and
choose.
because
Sometimes
he
it's a family
believed they would
tradition.
prepare him best for the
Their family is in
NBA,
that college.
which was the only thing on his mind since he was 12. With Rose on the team, the Memphis Tigers started the season with 26 consecutive wins, finishing the regular
26
season with a
consecutive
33-1 record, and were the number 1 ranked team in the country. Rose led the Tigers to the
Number 1 ranking
Final
team in the country. He was probably the number 1 ranking point guard in the country.
4.
It's UCLA taking on Memphis, 2 number 1 seeds. It's really a matchup between the point guards of Derrick Rose and Darren Collison.
where he scored
Derrick
25
Collison, he must
points
have been
and
another
9
what if.
rebounds to lead the Tigers to an 85-67 win over UCLA. In the national championship game, Rose scored 17 points, along with 6 rebounds and 7 assists. But Memphis
he was
lost the
scoring a
game in
mean
overtime.
triple-double.
Despite missing
Even
out
in
on the
NBA.
championship, Rose's talent and winning pedigree were undeniable, as he won 92% of games in high school and college.
This the state championship trophy that we won last year, and these are some of the fellas that helped
So we
get
had
this
the
trophy.
LeBron James
Due to a controversy
athleticism,
over Rose's
Stephen
SAT
Curry's shooting
test,
ability,
which
and
he
the Kobe Bryant
probably
mentality,
didn't take at
that would
all
be
and
a
had someone
hard
else
to
take
beat
the
player.
SATs for him, the entire Memphis 08 season was deleted from the NCAA record books.
The SAT board themselves, like they do an independent investigation. They conclude that the handwriting on the SAT does not match up with Derrick Rose.
Still, despite the controversy, all the NBA teams loved Rose's game and his potential. However, before the 2008 draft, there was a huge debate on who was a better prospect, Rose or Michael Beasley.
I see Rose and Beasley. Why are these two players creating so much buzz?
We know who the first two picks are going to be. We're not sure exactly what order. The decision is going to be between Derrick Rose and Michael Beasley.
But the Bulls believed in their hometown point guard, selecting him with the first overall pick.
The Chicago Bulls select Derrick Rose from the University of Memphis.
As Rose became just the 5th point guard in history to be selected first overall. And after the first month of the season, it was clear that Chicago made the right choice. The pressure of being the first overall pick meant nothing to Rose, who came out of the gate.
But to a regular person, it's a lot of pressure being the first pick because you got to prove why you should have been the first pick.
Fearless and ready to dominate. No point guard in the league could match his speed. And when given an inch of space, Derrick would explode to the cup for a thunderous dunk. And even if the lane was closed, Rose still found a way to finish through contact with an unreal ability to contort his body in midair, moving past, over, and sometimes under defenders. It was something cultivated on the concrete playgrounds of Murray Park, where there were no referees and guys trying to take his head off to stop him from scoring. When we used to play in the park, there were no fouls. That's why I shoot the crazy shots I do, because I knew I was going to get fouled, but I still got to make the shot. Averaging 16.8 points, 6.3 assists, and 3.9 rebounds, Rose propelled a mediocre Bulls team to the NBA playoffs, almost unanimously winning the Rookie of the Year award. And in the opening round of the playoffs against the Boston Celtics and their Big Three, Rose immediately proved he was not afraid of the moment. In Game 1, he scored 36 points, which tied Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for the most points for a rookie in their playoff debut. Although the Celtics had been the best team in the NBA and would go on to win the title that year, Rose and the Bulls pushed them to 7 games, in arguably the most electrifying series of the playoffs. Rose improved his numbers from the regular season, averaging 26 and 6 on 49% shooting. But it wasn't about the numbers with Derrick. What Rose showed as a rookie was resilience and fearlessness with each drive to the basket, something that was ingrained in his character and something that was reminiscent of the best days of Allen Iverson. You could foul him hard and put his butt on the floor 100 times, but he would get up 101 times, dust himself off, and keep attacking. And this kind of bravery and mental fortitude propelled him into superstardom. And when the 2010 season started, Rose took the reins and became clear leader of the Bulls, giving Chicago a taste of excellence and hope that they hadn't felt since Michael Jordan. Even though he was an introvert who didn't speak much, Rose spoke through his actions, leading by example, and his fighting, never back down spirit permeated through the entire team. Rose made his first All-Star team with averages of 21 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists per game, leading the Bulls to the playoffs again. However, in the first round of the playoffs, LeBron's Cavs proved too strong, winning the series in 5 games. Still, Rose shined, once again proving that he was one of those players who only got better in the playoffs, averaging 27 points, 3 rebounds, and 7 assists per game. And for the 2011 season, the Bulls fired Vinny Del Negro and appointed Tom Thibodeau as head coach.
We're excited to have him as the leader of our basketball team and want to welcome Tom,
whose hard-nosed, defensive style went hand-in-hand with the mentality of the Bulls' core players in Rose, Joakim Noah, and Luol Deng. Chicago's defense improved from 11th in the NBA to number 1, and their offense went from 27th to 11th, with the second-best net rating in the league. On a defensive-minded team, D. Rose carried the offense on his back with 25 points and 7.7 assists per game, fully establishing himself as the most entertaining player in the league. He was splitting double teams like they weren't even there, jumping over defenders like they were middle schoolers. He was always in attack mode, colliding into the heart of the defense like a human version of a warhammer. Rose was the perfect representative of his era, an isolation scorer who creates for others by creating advantages one-on-one, and a guy who can win any game by himself. He had his flaws, and the lack of a dependable jump shot was his primary one, which was represented by 44% shooting. But still, with his relentless drives to the basket, Rose was bending defenses and creating so much pressure, becoming only the third player since the 19...
What I like about Derrick Rose, too, he was creating his own shot selection. He didn't need screens and none of that.
73 NBA season to record 2,000 points and 600 assists in a single season. Rose led the Bulls to 62 wins in the regular season, their most since 1998, securing the best record in the NBA. D. Rose received 113 out of 120 first-place votes for MVP, and at 22 years and 6 months old, he became the youngest MVP in NBA history. When the playoffs came around, Rose's numbers rose once again. He averaged 27 points and 7 assists in the first round against the Pacers, and in the second round against the Hawks, he was even better, with 30 points and 10 assists on average. Then, the Eastern Conference Finals offered a long-awaited clash between the two best teams in the East, the Bulls and the Miami Heat, who had their newly assembled Big Three, led by the biggest villain in the NBA at the time, LeBron James. Despite the Bulls having the best record in the league, Miami was favored in the series.
Chicago's going to have a tough time scoring in this series. I think Miami's probably set up a little bit more with the Big Three.
But Rose and the Bulls stomped them in Game 1, winning by 21 points, fueled by 28 and 6 from D. Rose. However, for the rest of the series, Miami's coach Erik Spoelstra made the smart adjustment of having LeBron James guard Rose in the fourth quarter, as he was the only player strong and fast enough to slow down the MVP. Chicago averaged just 14 points in the fourth quarter of the next 4 games, and Miami won each one, as the rest of the Bulls struggled to score without the usual offensive output from Rose. Derrick still averaged 23 points and 6 assists in the series, but he shot just 35% from the field. And even though the games were closer than a 4-1 score would suggest, Miami deservedly won the series and advanced to the NBA Finals. Those first few years, he was just amazing. That MVP year, literally our whole game plan was trying to figure out how to slow him down. Like, the entire game plan.
The NBA's collective bargaining agreement expires midnight Thursday, and if there's no deal by then, well, the owners could impose a lockout.
The next NBA season was put on hold due to a lockout, with the season finally kicking off on Christmas Day, and the Bulls opened the year in the Staples Center against Kobe and the Lakers. With the score 87-86 in the Lakers' favor and 15 seconds to go, the Bulls secured the final possession, and everybody knew who was getting the ball.
The Bulls with a chance to win here on Christmas Day. Rose left, throws in the lane, throws, good! Derrick Rose!
If you watched that game in real time, you had a sense of security that D. Rose would make the right play and win the game for Chicago. That was the aura of Derrick Rose at the time, as he was the superstar Chicago had been missing for over a decade. And even though nobody was saying that he was on Jordan's level, his play and mentality made Chicago hopeful, believing he was the chosen one, a superstar from the city that would carry them to their next championship. However, Rose's 2012 season was marked by minor injuries, as he played in only 60% of games, with his numbers decreasing across the board. But despite Rose missing nearly half the season, Chicago still secured the #1 seed in the East, and everybody was ready for another clash between the Bulls and the Heat. But that never happened. In Game 1 of the Bulls' first-round matchup with the Sixers, they were up by double digits with a minute and a half remaining. But Coach Thibodeau was notorious for playing his starters 40-plus minutes.
Sometimes it can be the coach's fault how they use the players, because the Chicago Bulls had a lot of great players. They had Jimmy Butler, DeMar DeRozan
per game.
And they
so
never did
Rose was still in the game even though the win was secured. Then, as he was making another drive to the basket, Rose landed awkwardly and crumpled to the floor, holding his left knee. His ACL was gone, and so was his career as we knew it.
Derrick Rose had a torn ACL suffered in Game 1 of the Bulls' first-round playoff series against the Sixers.
He missed the entire 2013 NBA season, and when he returned in 2014, he wasn't the same Derrick Rose. He played gingerly, not fully trusting his surgically repaired knee, without the same burst of speed and athleticism that used to leave defenders in the dust. And then, 10 games later, another disaster. The meniscus in his other knee gave out, and one more season went down the drain. After 2 seasons of suffering and rehabilitation, Derrick finally returned for the 2014-2015 season, but he was a shadow of his former self, averaging 16 points on a horrible
16 points per game, and you had 2 injuries in that same year? That's impressive.
35% shooting.
35%
On January 28th,
goal,
Rose
though,
scored a
is
step-back
lower than
jumper
what he
with
usually
7
did.
seconds on the clock to give the Bulls a 113-111 overtime win over the Golden State Warriors. Then, 2 weeks later, the NBA world got the news which made everyone's heart sink. Derrick Rose injured his knee again with another meniscus tear.
Derrick Rose reported with
See, I
right
told you it
knee
could be the
pain
coach
today.
fault
An
sometimes. They should've
exam
just sat
and
him out
subsequent MRI confirmed a medial
for the beginnings
meniscus
of the
tear
finals.
of the right knee.
Slowly but surely, Rose became synonymous with knee injuries instead of high-flying
But he
dunks.
was the only thing they
But
had in
there
offense
was
for
hope on the
Chicago Bulls,
horizon
I
because
understand.
this time he was ruled out of play for only 6 weeks and was set to return before the playoffs. On April 18, 2015, Rose played in his first playoff game since that ill-fated Game 1 of the 2012 playoffs, scoring 23 points and 7 assists on 9 of 16 shooting against the Bucks.
Tonight in Milwaukee, the Bulls try to put a stranglehold on this best-of-7 first-round series.
In Game 3 of the series, Derrick had another vintage performance, finishing with 34 points and 8 assists in a tight 113-106 overtime win.
And that's
The
not even
Bulls
his career
defeated
high. His
Milwaukee
career
in
high
6
is on the
games,
Minnesota
with
Timberwolves.
19 points and 6 assists per game from Rose, who was like a wounded tiger. Clearly not at 100%, but still dangerous and ready for the kill if he gets close enough to his prey. And that's exactly what he did in Game 3 of the second round against LeBron and the Cavs. With the game tied at 96 and 3 seconds left, Derrick was given the opportunity to take the final shot, once again displaying his killer instinct.
Finds Rose. Rose trying to get open, fires away.
Rose led the Bulls to victory with 30 points and 7 assists. And in Game 4, he was even better, finishing with 31 points. But his great game was spoiled by another game-winning buzzer beater.
It's gone. LeBron James at the buzzer.
King James proved to be
back-to-back
too much
buzzer
for the
beater
Bulls to handle, as he led the Cavs to a 4-2
Crazy
series
sequence
victory.
of events.
But Rose didn't disappoint, averaging 22 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists across 6 games. And the story continued throughout the 2016 season.
And that was
Rose
throughout
was
the
finally
playoffs.
healthy, appearing in 66 games.
Wow,
and
injuries
he had
happened.
flashes of brilliance, like his fourth quarter takeover against the Thunder, or 30 points against the Knicks in the Garden. However, his great games were too far apart, and they didn't happen night after night like they used to. It was starting to get painfully obvious that the Derrick Rose of old wasn't going to show up. The former MVP was now 27 years old and was supposed to be in his prime, but instead, he only averaged 16 points and 5 assists
Your
on
prime starts at
43%
27
shooting,
years old?
far from superstar level. And
That's
even though
not
they
what we're
had
doing.
quality players like Jimmy Butler, Pau Gasol, and Nikola
I was thinking maybe
Mirotic,
when
the
you
Bulls
first
finished the
joined the
season
NBA.
with a 42-40 record, which wasn't good enough to make the playoffs. And then a
So he
shock.
didn't get
The
traded
Bulls
because of
management
injuries. He
decided
got
to
traded
trade their hometown
because they didn't keep making the playoffs.
hero to New York, giving up on the dream of Rose leading them to the promised land.
Everything plays out in this business. In
This must be a
my
sad
life,
moment. I bet he
period.
wanted to retire in Chicago. That's where he's
It'll
from.
always be twists and turns like this.
In hindsight, it was a logical move to trade the most expensive player on the roster who wasn't performing like he used to. But at that moment, the trade sent shockwaves throughout the NBA, and it was another reminder that Rose wasn't the same player anymore. However, with the Knicks, Rose had a revitalizing season. It wasn't the old above-the-rim Derrick Rose, but he wasn't trying to be that anymore. Instead of
New era
dunks,
for
he
him.
used what he had left, and that was speed and craftiness around the basket. Even though he wasn't jumping
craftiness around
over
the rim, that's what he's
defenders,
used to
he
doing
was
anyway.
still quick enough to go around them and create shots with his handle. Rose played 64 games for the Knicks in the 2017 season, averaging 18 points and 4.5 assists on a very respectable 47% shooting. However, just when his career started to have an upward trajectory, another injury brought him down. It was another meniscus tear and a 4th knee surgery in a span of 6 years.
I know he's kind of low in
Kevin
spirit,
Hughes was the
but
downfall of his career.
we'll support him the best we can as teammates, and hopefully he can get back to 100%.
To make
Other
matters
teams usually
worse,
get injured
it was
though
a
in
contract
NBA,
year for
other than
Rose.
your
So
knees.
rather than getting a solid
your
new
arm.
deal, he was forced to sign a minimum contract with the Cavaliers. But as always, he got
like the
injured
main part.
again after just 16 games with Cleveland, causing him to step away from the team and seriously ponder retirement.
I'm not trying to be a distraction.
That's
to
sad,
anyone
though. You gotta
like
think
that.
about how young he
I'm here
was, thinking
to be
about
professional
retirement.
about any situation I get put into,
and to own up to it and be a man about it.
Developing story into Sports Center, Cavaliers guard Derrick Rose has reportedly left the team, and according to our insider Adrian Wojnarowski and Cavs reporter Dave McMenamin, Rose is unsure about his future in the NBA.
And yet, despite all the bad luck, pain, and suffering, Rose was a fighter. He was still that kid from Murray Park who became the #1 pick and the MVP. After getting traded by the Cavs and waived by the Jazz, D. Rose signed with the Timberwolves, where he reunited with Coach Thibodeau and resurrected his career. In the 8th game of the 2019 season, just 6 months after he considered retirement, Rose had arguably the greatest game of his career against the Jazz, erupting for a career-high 50 points on 19 for 31 shooting, with 6 assists and securing the victory with a block on Utah's final shot as time expired.
Has it blocked in the corner by who else?
I'm not gonna lie, they love Derrick Rose on every team.
Even without the vertical athleticism, Rose reminded the world what could have been. And after the game, he gave one of the most emotional interviews in NBA history.
We got a young group. My job is to come in, be the veteran, help guys out, and lead by example. You see me talking, it's the most I ever talked to my teammates in my whole career. So it means a lot.
Coach Thibodeau said that Rose had the character, the humility, and the courage.
He's probably maybe one of the most mentally tough people that I've ever come across.
In the 2019 season, Rose shot 48% from the field and a career-high 37% for three, averaging 18 points off the bench and receiving strong consideration for the 6th Man of the Year. Then in 2020, Rose signed with the Pistons, where he once again had a career year in terms of efficiency, averaging 18 points and 5.6 assists. Next season, he got traded to New York for his 2nd stint with the Knicks, and he was again excellent in his role, finishing 3rd in the voting for 6th Man of the Year. For the next 3 seasons, he remained an efficient role player and mentor for younger guys, ultimately retiring after the 2024 season with the Grizzlies at the age of 35.
Derrick Rose, had he not gotten injured, would have been one of the greatest guards we have ever seen in the history of basketball. And he's a great, great guy. One of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet in your life.
Rose will forever remain one of the biggest what-if stories in NBA history, and probably the biggest in this millennium. Everyone who watched him during his short 4-year peak knows how much basketball lost with his injury, because in Chicago and a lot of other places, Rose was larger than life. He did things in midair that broke the physical laws of accepted human behavior. Watching him play in real life did not serve justice to his extraordinary speed and athleticism, because if you blinked, you could miss it. Rose's brilliance was such that you needed slow motion to fully grasp what the hell even happened. The same way you need to slow the frame down to comprehend how a snake bites its prey or a hummingbird flaps its wings. D. Rose was ready to become a legend, but his story was ultimately written with different letters. Every player who won the MVP ended up in the Hall of Fame. And among the 36 players to win the MVP, only Bill Walton has fewer All-Star appearances than Rose. But unlike Walton, who has 2 NBA rings, Rose never enjoyed deep playoff success, as he only won 3 playoff series in his career. And still, despite the shortness of his prime, we have no doubt that he'll eventually get enshrined in the Hall. Rose squeezed up every bit of juice out of his talent, and he excelled as a superstar and later as a role player, always improving his game in the playoffs with plenty of clutch shots. Some of the memorable highlights in NBA history. Thanks for watching. And if you like this video, we have another one for you right here.
How good was Derrick Rose actually? If you enjoyed, make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment down below more video suggestions.